Now, live from Whitney Media, 1460 WVOX, the Greenburgh Report with Greenburgh Town Supervisor Paul Feiner. You can join in the conversation at 914-636-0110. Now on 1460 WVOX, here's Greenburgh Town Supervisor Paul Feiner.
Ellen, thanks for joining us. Ellen?
Thank you for having me, Paul.
Could you tell, I think your organization is fabulous, and I just wondered if you could just tell us a little bit about the organization.
I would be happy to tell you about this wonderful organization. First of all, can you hear me?
Yes, okay? I can.
Okay, wonderful. I was really privileged to become involved with Spring Community Partners back in 2015. At the time, they were looking for someone to help organize their square dance, which has been our annual fundraiser for the organization. This is the first year we've had to cancel it, actually, unfortunately, because of the coronavirus pandemic. You can only imagine we're not having an in-person square dance fundraiser. But I came on in 2015 to help organize that, and I had been an organizer of other community events in the river towns, the River Art Studio Tour, so I guess people thought that I would be good at organizing the square dance, and my family will happily tell you that I like to micromanage, so I guess I came in to micromanage the square dance, but we've had very successful square dances up until this year to raise money for Spring, and But now we're trying to raise money for our organization in other ways because we've had so many additional demands put on us because of the coronavirus pandemic and just through the years with families needing assistance within Dobbs Ferry. So the organization, I'm sorry.
So basically, Spring helps families in need, and the families have to live in Dobbs Ferry.
Exactly. So Spring is an organization that is specific to Dobbs Ferry. We help families in need within Dobbs Ferry. And it was started back in 2007 by an amazing group of parents and educators at Springhurst, which is the elementary school in Dobbs Ferry. So Jessica Cecil and her husband, Rich Larson, he's a social worker, Deborah Borwick, were three of the parents who were initially involved, and we are really lucky to still have them on our board. And Patricia Young also was working at Springhurst, and Elise Kavanaugh, who was an ELA teacher at Springhurst. That was the small group of people that in 2007 began to notice that kids were coming to school without snacks, without warm winter coats, and they just really wanted to do something. So they started a very grassroots effort where they just kind of contacted their friends and said, "Oh, can we do a fun a coat drive? And then we'll distribute coats to these children who seem to need them." And then they initiated something called snack ferries, where different parents would just donate snacks to the school, and then they would be distributed by the school staff to children who came without snacks. And over the years, the organization has really grown. A couple of really instrumental people came on board the next year. Robin Larkins, who is currently my co-chair, she helped establish non-for-profit status for the organization in 2009. And Tracy Barron was also instrumental in that establishment back then. So they got involved. And then the organization continued to grow basically through networks of friends. For instance, Carmel Lowenthal, who is a Dobbs Ferry resident and a professional musician, she started our Musical Muses program. And that is a wonderful program where Spring pays for the cost of instrument rentals for kids who want to study instruments at school but don't have the resources to pay for those instruments. So she runs that. I'm sorry.
Now back to the Greenburgh Report on 1460 WVOX Once again, here's Greenburgh Town Supervisor Paul Feiner.
Greenburgh Town Supervisor, and we're interviewing Ellen Crane, who's with an organization in Dobbs Ferry that helps so many people in so many ways. They were formed to be together for Dobbs Ferry children. Ellen, how many volunteers do you have who are involved in this?
Wow, that's a good question, Paul. We were trying to determine that the other day. When we have the square dance, we can have, about 80 volunteers just for that one event, just with a lot of students helping out and people helping behind the scenes before and afterwards, whatnot. But basically, we as an organization, we have a large network of volunteers, but we as an organization and a board, we're all volunteers as well. And we have a board of 22 right now. And our executive board is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8. We have an executive committee of 9 people who do a lot of the legwork for the organization. And Robin and I, as co-chairs, we're really out there interacting with people more than anybody else, especially because I was giving you history about the organization, but I hadn't even gotten onto our most pressing needs right now, especially in light of the coronavirus pandemic. We've just launched a campaign. We're trying to raise over $65,000 by the end of the spring, because we have a lot of food insecurity in our village, and Spring was started as a means to address food insecurity, and it's just like ballooned almost out of control with the coronavirus pandemic. Back in 2011, Spring co-founded the Dobbs Ferry Food Pantry. And at that point, it was a very small operation. And for many years, it was just something where about 40 families came in and chose what they wanted from a closet at South Presbyterian Church. And the pantry is run with South Presbyterian Church in conjunction with some other faith-based organizations that are local: Ardsley Methodist, United Methodist Church, Woodlands Community Temple, Zion Episcopal Church, and Temple Beth Shalom, among others, and a lot of individuals who volunteer and bring supplies. So it started out very small, but now since the COVID pandemic has been raging, we've been averaging at least 100 families a week, sometimes upward of 135 families, expecting about 150 next Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving. So it's a completely different operation now, too. And, we have to box food and hand, families boxes, and then they can get prepared meals. Restaurants in the community have come together through a Westchester County grant in order to provide prepared meals for families, and they can get other items as well. And a very large portion of the people who come to the food pantry also have children in the district. So it's not every family we serve has children in the district, but a large majority of them do. And I'm sorry, go on.
That's amazing. I'm just wondering, do you have any paid staff?
We do not. We do not at this point. But we get a small number of grants, but we rely primarily on contributions from individuals, and we are raising money right now. Our website is springcommunitypartners.org, springcommunitypartners.org. So we really appreciate everybody's donations. We're a 501c3 organization. Donations are tax deductible. We do not get much assistance from our village. Our village promotes our efforts, and the school district promotes our efforts, but we do not get any sort of financial or administrative assistance from the village.
But you know what I really think is really great is there's a lot of charities that people donate to, and a lot of the funds go for administrative costs. But your organization, if somebody makes a donation, it goes directly to the people who really need it. So if somebody's hungry, if they need crisis intervention, if they need other types of help, they get it directly, which is really very impressive. You have many programs, and before we go on the next break, would you be able to talk about what they do with crisis intervention?
Sure. So crisis intervention is something that happens on a case-by-case basis. So if a family is in crisis, the family is, the school district can let the family know that we exist, and then the family reaches out to Spring, and then we have someone who runs a program called Help a Child, Sarah Saletti. She's been doing this for years. So she has her group of volunteers, and she just sends a text out to all of her volunteers, and then they respond with whatever the family needs. Maybe it's food cards. We do not give money directly to families. We provide food cards. We provide assistance in the form of clothing, and we just don't give any actual monetary payments. It's usually in the crisis intervention assistance is usually in the form of food cards. And we do also partner with an organization in Hastings called Family to Family that matches up donor families with families in need in the community and throughout the nation. But we work with them with our families that are right in our community.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's any, like, if some families are embarrassed to take the help, if they're part of a community, what happens if they don't want everybody in the world knowing that they have problems?
That does happen sometimes. We try to keep things under the radar, and one critical program that I didn't mention yet is the school supplies program. So that is a way for families to opt into Spring, because of course the district can't share information about families who may need assistance. So we're there. Our information is on the school district website. When families enter the district, they're given information that Spring exists, and then they can reach out to us if they need assistance with school supplies. And then they're in our system, and it was, the families made the decision to reach out and come to us for support. And then, like with the food pantry, a lot of families who've never had to do something. Oh.
1460 WVOX. Now back to the Greenburgh Report on 1460 WVOX. Once again, here's Greenburgh Town Supervisor Paul Feiner.
Greenburgh Town Supervisor, and I'm really very pleased to have with us as a special guest Ellen Crane from an organization called Spring, a community partners, and they help families and children in Dobbs Ferry. And Ellen, I'm wondering if there's other organizations in the county that are so locally focused that do something similar, because I'm not aware of many groups like that.
That's a good question, Paul. I hope there are. I hope there are more organizations like Spring out there. We did, Robin and I had a discussion with someone from Ardsley, and I am forgetting her name, but she wanted to start something similar in Ardsley. So she was inspired by the work of Spring and wanted to do something similar there. our partnership with the Dobbs Ferry Food Pantry helps families in Ardsley. We help families from some surrounding villages because they don't have food pantries, and there's a lot of need these days. But there isn't something as encompassing as Spring in Ardsley or in. I'm sure there are organizations, but I've been kind of tunnel vision to my own organization. I would love to find out more. If somebody goes to our website, springcommunitypartners.org, we have a sign up, and people could let us know what they're doing in their communities. I'd be really interested to hear, or if they want some information about starting an organization in their own village. Something else that I just wanted to address, something that's been really important during the pandemic as well, that Spring is trying to help out with, is the inequities with learning in the new model, with a lot of a lot of virtual learning, which can be very difficult for many of the families that Spring serves. There are problems with internet connectivity, with having the appropriate devices, sometimes with literacy, sometimes with space, sometimes with, different siblings, fighting over devices or space, or, siblings having to take care of other siblings. It's a very challenging environment for our families. So we've been trying to help out in ways, that go beyond food support and find more financial assistance. We've been trying to help families with language, with navigating the new terrain. We want to try to get our tutoring program up and going again. It's been very difficult during the pandemic to try to navigate all that. And, what can we do in person? That's very difficult. So we're trying to get our some sort of tutoring program going again in January. And we've got some word. We're hoping to be able to use the Dobbs Ferry Library. Hopefully we can do a little bit of in-person assistance in that way. And also, we had a really wonderful summer enrichment program hosted by the Children's Village, which is a residential treatment facility in Dobbs Ferry. They generously offered a space to host something in person, which, we as an executive committee were thinking, my gosh, these kids have been cooped up in small apartments for the spring and summer. They haven't been able to get out and have fun or do enriching activities. And somehow we pulled together 2 weeks worth of enrichment activities for young kids outdoors. We were thankfully lucky with the weather. We tried to get it going the week of Hurricane Isaias, but we didn't quite have it together, but we would have had to cancel it anyway. So we had 2 weeks of summer enrichment live with a lot of volunteer instructors. Some of them we paid a stipend to, but it was really fantastic to see kids together interacting and having fun and learning. They were, they were learning STEM. They were doing STEM activities. They were doing art activities. They were doing improv comedy. They were doing yoga. It was just fantastic. It was the best thing that happened to me all summer.
You were talking about the fact that you get some grants, but not a lot of grants. From any of the major Westchester foundations, because I would think that an organization like yours would, people who want to make donations, would love to make donations because the money goes directly to the causes rather than the administration.
Yes.
Had a success.
We are because of our partnership with the food pantry. We were able to apply for a New York Cares grant from Westchester County, which is specifically for food support. And that, I believe, is a reimbursement grant, and we will get that when we, anyway. So that's a major grant. We got a major grant from BlackRock, which was a parent who works for that organization or works for that company, saw one of our social media posts and mentioned that the company that she worked for had a program to assist organizations doing things like we do, and that was a major grant. And we've gotten a few other grants. I mean, surprisingly, sometimes when you're an all-volunteer organization, you're not as eligible for certain grants. It may seem counterintuitive, but it seems to be the case. But we are trying to definitely step up our grant applications and our reception of grants. So, but we get much more. Currently we get about twice as much support from individual and business contributions as we do from grants.
That was great. Yeah, so maybe after
we need a grant writer.
Or I could give you like a list of other foundations that I think you could reach out to that might be interested. You never know.
Fantastic.
Because I just sort of feel that your organization really gives great value, and a lot of foundations, that's what they're really looking for. So we were talking about the crisis intervention, the Dobbs Ferry food pantry.
Right.
You have an early literacy program. Also, what's Help a Child 2.0?
Okay, so Help a Child 2.0 is something I kind of alluded to earlier. The wonderful woman named Sarah Soletti runs that, and it's basically where it started out as pairing a specific donor family to a specific family in need. But it has evolved a little bit so that families, if they need something, if a family needs a winter coat, then somebody contacts Sarah and she puts out the feelers to all her volunteers, and all of a sudden, somebody buys a winter coat. Somebody needs equipment for a sports activity. She'll send out the message and somebody donates. I mean, lately they've been donating a lot of supplies to the food pantry, diapers, other things. Sarah also helps run the Springhurst Garden, so she's been bringing a lot of fresh vegetables to the food pantry from the Springhurst Garden. So she does an incredible amount of work for our community as well. So right now, Help a Child is kind of just as needs arise. Sarah puts out the call to all of her team of volunteers, and then they respond. I mean, one time over the summer, somebody needed a refrigerator, and Sarah put out the call, and somebody had a refrigerator to donate, and then we took the refrigerator to the family, and then they were able to keep their food cold. So, you never know what's going to come up.
I'm Paul Feiner. We have one more break, and we'll be right back in about 3 minutes.
Now back to the Greenburgh Report on 1460 WVOX. Once again, here's Greenburgh Town Supervisor Paul Feiner.
Hey, I'm Paul Feiner, a Greenburgh Town Supervisor, and it's really so inspiring to talk about a program that really does so much good for so many children and families. Ellen, about how many children and families do you think you help a year?
It's a good question. This year we provided 175 sets of school supplies. So that's kind of a marker of how many families we anticipate helping during the school year. The number has grown, so it's probably closer to 180 children in the district that we're helping in some way. And in fact, one thing that I didn't mention yet, and is a brand new budget item and expense for us, is with this new mode of learning, our elementary school has half days of school for the kids at Springhurst. And so working families, are kind of in a bind because they're sending their kids to school for half day. Then what do they do for the other half day? So there's the Springhurst Children's Center has in the past provided daycare for children before and after school. And then they developed something that's called wraparound care that provides supervision for kids who are only going half days of school. So we're also helping 10 families out, or we're assisting in paying for the tuition for 10 different children in the district. So that is also costing us upwards of $3,500 per month. So that is another big expense that we have this year. And just like a quick rundown of what we've done so far this year, as I said, we've provided 175 sets of school supplies. We provided extra monthly assistance to 45 families through our partnership with Family to Family. We provided 8 scholarships for nursery schools in Dobbs Ferry. We provided 10 free PSAT and SAT test prep classes. We've paid for 28 discounted PTSA memberships this year. We've purchased 16 senior yearbooks. We've provided tuition for the kids I just mentioned. No, this is something different. Tuition for 12 students to participate in Dobbs Ferry Rec Department after-school classes. We have provided money for 20 music students to rent instruments. I mentioned the Help a Child program. We've also co-sponsored a social justice book club for students, and we've provided a lot of guidance to families with language literacy, resource, and technology challenges. And currently, we're doing our Kids Can holiday food donation drive, which happens 3 times per year. It's connected to our partnership with the food pantry. So we're asking kids to either donate food and bring it to the pantry, or better yet, just give a monetary donation of some sort, because we do provide gift cards for Stop and Shop to families. So we're doing all of that. You can read all about us at springcommunitypartners.org and donate there if you're so inclined. And that's it.
I'm wondering how much time you personally spend on this. It seems like you have to.
I don't think I want to go there, Paul.
It probably is more than a full-time job.
I do have a photography business, but yeah. So it's a lot. It's worth every moment. It's so satisfying to help out these families, and just seeing them at the summer enrichment program made it all worthwhile.
It really is. It's really a remarkable program. And does your co-chair spend as much time as you?
Much more.
That is, great. So you're like a modern day Mother Teresa's.
Robin is.
Do the school? So basically, in terms of identifying families, who need the help, generally, do the recommendations come from the school district? Like the school, counselors, or do people just?
Well, we do work with school counselors very closely, but as I mentioned, the families do have to opt in. So the counselors will recommend us to the families, and then they contact us. Yeah.
Right. Are you so surprised? Are there like some families that you would think would be better off, and then they come to you for help? They might have lost their job and might be a little...
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That happens a lot. And we've seen that at the food pantry.
Right.
This is definitely something that's happening quite a bit during the pandemic.
I'm sort of wondering because, the town collects, taxes, and a lot of people are out of, work.
Yeah.
And having difficult times, meeting their tax obligations. Do you provide either rent or like lower interest?
We do not do that. We have provided resources that we've distributed at the food pantry for that type of assistance. So if we find out about a program, somebody contacted us just recently who works who does provide that sort of assistance or works with an organization providing that type of assistance, and we were able to pass it on to our families in case that was something that they could take advantage of.
Right. Yeah. You have like a great. You're compassionate and caring about your neighbors, and you also provide awards to graduating seniors.
We do. Oh my gosh, I forgot to mention that. We do. We provide awards to graduating seniors. Yeah. And
what type of are these? Seniors who also share your passion for community service, or people we
used to give that award, but we've had so many. I mean, we do give. I mean, it is partly about community service, but it's mostly about need, and so applicants write something to us, and we as a committee read the applications, and we try to determine who has the most compelling argument and what type of award we want to give. And we usually give an award to everyone who applies, but some students need more assistance than others. So that is one case in which we do provide a financial award directly to someone. It's to a student.
Yeah.
One
other question I have is you mentioned that the organization was formed in 2007.
Yes.
And some of the people who received help are now older.
Yes.
Hopefully they're doing better. Have you heard back from those who might have gotten help years ago, and has any of your former recipients participated and now they're giving back?
Absolutely. One of them was on our committee to select the student award winners. So he had been a beneficiary of a student award, had graduated from college, worked for a financial institution in the city, and joined our committee to help determine who was going to get the award for last year.
That is really, really inspiring. Helping somebody who other people might have given up on, and then basically now they're giving back to the community.
Yeah. Spring has always been about trying to level the playing field for all children in Dobbs Ferry. Some of whom don't have the resources to do as many things as other kids do, and we just try to give them as much opportunity as possible.
Right, and you also you've paused in 2020, but you have a program where you partner with a school on community sports programming by assisting families with registration and equipment costs.
Right. We haven't done so much of that this year with COVID. But
right. Unfortunately, we ran out of time, but I really appreciate what you're doing, and I'm looking forward to encouraging more people to get involved, and also hope other neighborhoods around the county and the town will do the same thing that you do.
Thank you. springcommunitypartners.org. Thank you so much, Paul.
Speak to you. Thanks.